What is this thing called life that Prince referred to in his song, Let's Go Crazy? Why are we here? What is this all about? When we ask these questions, as we do so often in our lives, what we're looking for is meaning. Meaning, like engagement, contributes to eudaimonia, the Greek word for human flourishing. In the first lecture of this course, we discussed the difference between hedonia, which means feeling good, and eudaimonia, which is doing good. Both are essential for thriving. Many of our lessons so far have focused on feeling good. So now let's talk about doing good. Let's talk about meaning. There are three different ways to think about meaning in life. The first equates meaning with purpose, which is an overarching aim for your life. The Japanese believe that everyone has an ikigai, which is a reason for being. It's why you wake up in the morning. A second way to define meaning is significance, or the feeling that you matter, that your life is worthwhile. A third view equates meaning with coherence, or interpreting your life in a way that makes sense. You understand who you are and how you fit into the world. And we can combine these definitions to view meaning as the feeling that your life makes sense and is worthwhile because you're doing good things, making a positive difference. Having a sense of meaning in life impacts your physical and mental well-being in many ways. People who have meaning in their lives are happier, have greater satisfaction, more positive self-regard, feel more in control of their lives, and are more engaged in their work. They also experience less stress, anxiety, and depression. A sense of purpose in life has been linked to having a decreased risk of a heart attack or stroke. It's been estimated to extend life expectancy by 7 years. In one study, over 9,000 older adults took an assessment that measured their eudaimonic well-being, including whether they had a sense of purpose in life and if they felt what they did was worthwhile. They were divided into 4 groups based on their answers, from highest well-being to lowest well-being. 8.5 years later, 9% of the people in the highest well-being group had died, compared to 29% of those in the lowest well-being group. Controlling for other factors, the researchers concluded that people with the highest eudaimonic well-being were 30% less likely to die than those with the lowest well-being. Psychologists Diener and Oshie looked at data that Gallup had collected from a survey of almost 140,000 people across 132 countries to explore relationships among happiness, meaning, and other social factors. They discovered that people living in wealthier nations were happier, but that wealthier nations also had significantly higher suicide rates. They wondered if unhappiness didn't predict suicide, what did? The variable that was significantly related to suicide rates was meaning. Countries where people reported the lowest sense of meaning had the highest suicide rates. So meaning isn't only important for thriving, in some cases it can impact surviving. Meaning is very personal. Each individual experiences it in his or her own way. But research has identified several sources through which people often find meaning in their lives. 3 of the more typical sources include values, relationships, and service to others. Let's take a look at each of these. Values are deeply held beliefs about what's right and good. They contribute to meaning by helping us identify our purpose and by giving our lives a sense of coherence. Knowing what we value helps define who we are. A purpose is a long-term life goal that reflects our values. It's something we're always working towards that guides the choices we make about what actions to take. Our sense of meaning in life is enhanced when we choose goals and take actions that are aligned with what we care most deeply about, our core values. Unfortunately, our overscheduled, fast-paced lives can prevent us from living our values. We are so busy trying to get things done that we don't spend time on the things we truly value. Now, they may be important, but often they aren't urgent. Think about your day. If you're like most people, you spend a lot of it responding to emails, phone calls, or the person who runs into your office with a problem. There always seems to be something urgent that needs attention. By the end of the day, you may not have had time for strategic thinking about what your next big project should be, or to read the article about the latest regulation changes, or to make it home in time for dinner with your family. You may be very efficient at managing your time so that you get a lot done each day, but you'll only have a sense of meaning if what you're accomplishing is moving you closer to your purpose. In order to live a more purposeful life, we need to make a more conscious choice to align our daily behavior with goals that are based on our values. As author Annie Dillard said, how we spend our days is, of course, how we spend our lives. A good check to see if you're spending your time in a purposeful way is to look at your calendar. Does it reflect your values? If staying fit is an important goal, going to the gym should be on your calendar. If you believe taking a coaching course will help you to be a better leader, sign up for one and put the classes on your calendar. If you want to be involved in volunteer work, that should be on your calendar too. Decide what goals you want to pursue based on what matters most to you. Commit to spending time on activities that move you closer to those goals, and your sense of meaning in life will grow. As a leader, talk to your employees to find out what matters to them at work. Encourage them to be intentional about spending more time on what's important. Have team discussions about how you could support one another so that you could all live more meaningful lives. Help people see how their work contributes to valued outcomes. Point out shared values so that they understand how their personal values align with corporate values. A second source of meaning is our relationships. Now, we've already looked at how relationships contribute to feeling good in previous lectures, but here we'll look at how they foster well-being on a deeper level. Relationships contribute to meaning by giving our lives a sense of significance or belonging and coherence. Our lives feel worthwhile when we think of the relationships we have with others. Our relationships also help to define who we are. I'm a daughter, a sister, a wife, a mother, a friend. Time and again, studies show that people consider their relationships to be one of the most meaningful parts of their lives. Some studies ask people to list what gives their lives meaning, while other studies give people a list of potential sources of meaning. Either way, relationships come out on top. A study of social exclusion showed just how important belonging is for meaning. Students were brought into the lab and were given 15 minutes to socialize with others in a small group. The students were then taken to separate rooms and asked which two people from the group they would like to interact with again. Now, this information wasn't used. The researchers then told half the participants that everyone wanted to see them again, and the other half that nobody did. Afterwards, the rejected students were significantly more likely to say that life was meaningless. Relationships at work matter. Meaningful workplaces have a strong sense of community, where employees experience a feeling of support and belonging. The same practices that I mentioned in the lecture on relationships can be used to build a close-knit community at work. Have spaces that encourage dining together. Use social events to provide opportunities for employees to become friends. Relationships can be strengthened when teams volunteer together. Mentorships can facilitate the development of close relationships. Leaders create a sense of community by encouraging openness and trust, demonstrating personalized attention, using self-disclosure, and showing compassion. Supporting the relationships that employees have outside of work is also important. Encourage people to display pictures of their family and to talk about them. Organize events to which family members are invited, like a picnic on the weekend or a night at the ballpark. When employees experience a challenge at home, ask how you could support them. Do they need time off or a more flexible schedule? Don't underestimate the power of relationships at work and outside of work. They contribute to everyone's sense of meaning, which is vital for thriving. For many of us, our strongest sense of meaning comes from serving others. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others?" There's general agreement around the idea that meaning is most fully achieved when we actively engage in pursuits that transcend our own immediate interests. Serving others contributes to meaning by giving us a sense of purpose and significance. Making a difference in someone else's life makes us feel that our life is worthwhile. Work provides an ideal setting for people to find meaning. It gives them a chance to coordinate their actions with others in order to improve people's lives by providing them with a valuable product or service. Working together with a group of people makes it possible for individuals to do something collectively that they'd be unable to do alone. The potential for greater impact means that work can allow us to experience greater meaning. Many people look to their work in order to find a sense of fulfillment. They believe their career is not just about making a living, but that it's about making a difference. They want to move beyond success to achieve significance. Blake Allen at Purdue University conducted studies showing that people perceive their work as more meaningful when they believe it benefits others. In one study, he surveyed over 600 employees about the significance of their work, using statements like, "My job helps to improve the welfare of others," or "Others are positively affected by how well my job gets done." 3 months later, the employees who believed their work benefited others reported that their work was more meaningful. In a second study, he asked people to complete a task. Half of them were told that the task would benefit others, while half were told that they themselves would benefit from doing the task. Those who were told the task benefited others found the work more meaningful. According to one survey, Americans value meaningful work more than anything else, including promotions, income, job security, and work-life balance. Employees who find meaning at work are more satisfied, more productive, and more committed. This leads to increased customer satisfaction and better financial results. Unfortunately, though, the complexity of work today makes it hard for people to see a link between their daily tasks they perform and how a customer benefits. For many jobs, this can be a big leap, and the connection might not be obvious. This disconnect can reduce people's sense of meaning at work. Leaders need to have frequent conversations with people about how the work they do makes a positive impact. A helpful exercise is to ask employees to list the 5 or so tasks that they perform most often. Now then, for each task, have them write down the benefits of that task. Ask the question, who does this help? Often it'll be a colleague who uses their output to do something further. This may help them appreciate how their work benefits a fellow employee. But the line of questioning can be continued by asking, who does my colleague's task help? And so on, to get closer to the final output and see how it ultimately benefits the client. Talking to employees about how the work they do benefits others is important, but it's much more powerful for them to see the impact firsthand. Adam Grant and his colleagues discovered this in a study that they conducted using a university's fundraising call center. They arranged for a student who had received a scholarship thanks to the fundraising efforts to talk to a group of call center workers. A month later, the callers who had met the scholarship recipient spent more than twice as many minutes on the phone, and they brought in significantly more money. The weekly average rose from $186 to $503. Seeing how their actions benefited someone had a huge impact on their motivation. The callers saw firsthand the meaningful difference they were making in people's lives. Some companies have programs to ensure that their employees have contact with customers who benefit from their work. One of them is Novo Nordisk, a Danish pharmaceuticals firm that specializes in the treatment of diabetes. They arrange for their employees to meet with diabetes patients so that they can learn more about the illness and how it affects their day-to-day life. Johnson & Johnson often invites customers in to tell employees about how medical devices have changed their lives for the better. People experience more meaning when they see how the work they do makes a positive impact by serving others, customers or colleagues, Great leaders make sure their employees are aware of the impact of their work. They remind people of the company's mission and how the work they do contributes to it. We've seen the power of inviting a person in to speak to employees about how your company has made a positive impact in their life. You can also tell stories or show videos of how people are benefiting from the products you make. Or start a meeting by asking everyone to share how a colleague has made a positive difference to them. Do all that you can to keep people focused on the why of work. So we've seen how values, relationships, and service all contribute to our sense of meaning in life. We've also looked at the ways in which leaders can build on each of these to create more meaningful workplaces where people thrive. These efforts can help employees to see their work as a calling, which is a belief that you're doing something of value that positively impacts others. Amy Wisniewski, a professor of organizational behavior at Yale, and her colleagues were interested in how people make meaning of their work. In one study, they discovered that people experience their work in one of three ways: as a job, a career, or a calling. Those who view their work as a job regard it as a means to an end. They do it to earn a living. People who see their work as a career view it as a route to achievement, to gain money, responsibility, or advancement. People who view their job as a calling find their work enjoyable and do it for its own sake, not for financial or other benefits. They believe their work makes a valuable contribution to society or improves the world in some way. Interestingly, whether or not people experience their work as a calling does not depend on the actual work they do. It depends on how they perceive their work. The same occupation may be experienced as a calling by one person, but not others. Meaning is about how we understand the work we do, not the work itself. This means that people can make changes in their work to turn it into a calling and find it more meaningful. Wisniewski and her colleagues Dutton and Berg have developed a technique for increasing meaning at work that they call job crafting. There are three ways in which we can craft our jobs. The first is to alter the number, type, or nature of the tasks we perform. Second is to alter our interactions with others. The third option is to alter our cognitive perception of work, to reframe the way we think about it so that it more closely aligns with our values and interests. In their study of custodial workers in a hospital, Wisniewski and her colleagues saw examples of all three of these strategies. Some of the cleaners added tasks to make their jobs more meaningful. One cleaned rooms of patients who were in a coma. Every once in a while, he would rearrange the artwork in the rooms in hopes of stimulating the patient's brains. Another learned about the chemicals used for cleaning the rooms so that she could figure out which ones were the least likely to irritate the patients. One cleaner made his work more meaningful by focusing on interactions. As he went about his work, he would take note of the patients who seemed especially lonely that day. After clocking out, he would go back to visit one or two of them to lift their spirits. Several of the cleaners used cognitive technique of thinking about the value of what they were doing. They focused on the fact that if they didn't do their jobs well, patients could develop infections and die. Their work was to save lives by keeping the hospital rooms free from germs. There are endless examples of how people can craft their jobs in ways that make them more meaningful. My hairstylist has broadened her job to include teaching. She often takes time to show me hair care tips or tell me about a new product. Nurses often expand their roles by learning more about the patients and monitoring them carefully so that they can provide information to increase the quality of care they receive. Many people change their interactions to create more meaning at work by spending more time with individuals who share their values, who energize them, or from whom they can learn. Some examples of cognitive crafting include a zookeeper who chooses to see her work as caring for the animals rather than cleaning up animal waste. Or someone working in a music store who doesn't see her job as a salesperson, but instead as someone who helps people cope with difficulties and brighten their days through music. An employee working on the line at a car manufacturing plant can focus on the fact that every faulty piece he pulls from the conveyor belt might save a life. When a man driving a forklift for Scholastic, the world's largest publisher of children's books, was asked what his job was, he replied, "My job is to help children love to read." John Seeley Brown, an expert in organizational studies, said the job of leadership today is not just to make money, it's to make meaning. As a leader, there are steps you can take to empower your employees to make changes in order to experience more meaning at work. Give them autonomy to perform tasks in a different way. Give them time to take on an additional task or interact with customers. Use performance reviews as an opportunity for people to craft their jobs. Ask them what might make their work more meaningful. Would they like to lead employee training sessions or make client presentations? Talk to them about the company's goals. If they understand what the organization is trying to accomplish, this can help them identify contributions that would align their values with the company's needs. People experience meaning at work when they believe the work they do contributes value to others. They also derive a sense of meaning from work in a company that contributes to the greater good by helping to make the world a better place. Employees today have a strong preference to work for socially and environmentally responsible companies. They want to work for an organization that's making a difference in the lives of its customers, its employees, the community, and the planet. Employees who believe their company demonstrates socially responsible behavior have higher levels of commitment, greater morale, and a sense of pride. More and more companies are focusing on the triple bottom line, which considers their impact on people, profits, and the planet. Raj Sisodia, a professor at Babson College, coined the term conscious capitalism, which he says is a philosophy based on the belief that a more complex form of capitalism is emerging that holds the potential for enhancing corporate performance while simultaneously continuing to advance the quality of life for billions of people. He believes that companies with this higher purpose provide the sense of meaning that everyone is looking for. Sisodia has written numerous books and has created an organization to help companies become more conscious by serving the interests of all stakeholders: customers, employees, communities, suppliers, and the environment. The 4 principles of conscious capitalism are having a higher purpose, stakeholder alignment, conscious leadership, and conscious culture. Conscious businesses have higher purposes that serve the interests of all their major stakeholders. They have conscious leaders who are driven to serve the company, the people the company touches, and our shared planet. They also have caring cultures that promote the growth and professional fulfillment of their employees. Sisodia's research shows that conscious capitalism is good for the bottom line. He found that over a 15-year period, the return on investment for conscious capitalist companies was 1,646% versus 157% for S&P companies over the same time frame. B-Lab is a nonprofit organization that also promotes using business as a force for good. It encourages companies to align their interests with those of society in order to serve a higher purpose. B-Lab has created a B Corp certification that's awarded to companies that meet rigorous standards of social and environmental performance, transparency, and accountability. Over 2,000 companies have earned the B Corp certification. You can see a list of these companies and learn more about what it takes to earn the certification on the website bcorporation.net. There are many examples of companies that are pursuing a higher purpose. Companies with a mission that transcends the creation of wealth, seeking also to make a positive difference in the world. Tom's Shoes gives a new pair of shoes to a child in need for every pair of shoes purchased. Warby Parker does the same with eyeglasses through their Buy a Pair, Give a Pair program. Each handbag you purchase from Feed shows the number of school meals your purchase will provide to malnourished children. The ice cream company Ben & Jerry's uses its purchasing power to support fair trade, to buy eggs from cage-free farms, and to encourage dairy farmers to adopt more sustainable practices. They work to reduce their environmental footprint in many ways. Their freezers are energy efficient, they recycle much of their waste, and use packaging materials that come from environmentally friendly sources. They also serve their local communities in numerous ways. It probably won't surprise you to learn that Ben & Jerry's is a certified B Corporation. Decades ago, The Body Shop set an aim to be the world's most ethical and truly sustainable business. They banned any products tested on animals in 1993 and started a campaign to ban cosmetic testing on animals in the European Union. That ban went into effect in 2004. Does your company serve a purpose beyond just making a profit? If so, make sure your employees are aware of it. Working for a company that serves not only its customers, but also the wider community can provide people with a much greater sense of meaning at work. If your company doesn't have a higher purpose, look for ways your team can make a difference. Start a recycling program, plant trees on Earth Day, sponsor a canned food drive for a local shelter, or spend a Saturday building a house with Habitat for Humanity. Your employees will thrive if you help them to find meaning at work. Look for ways to let them engage in work they find meaningful. Encourage them to spend time on what's important, not just urgent. And be purposeful about how you spend your time as well. Create opportunities for employees to become friends and also support their relationships outside of work. Finally, remind people of the why of work as often as possible. Show them how what they do serves others, both their colleagues and clients. Allow them to craft their jobs, innovating around the edges, to bring things they care about to their work. And give them a sense of higher purpose by looking for ways that you can work together to make a positive impact on society. The result will be a thriving workplace, a thriving business, and a thriving world.